Hello, good afternoon. It is Thursday and we are here. Perfect timing for a afternoon story. This is my living room here. This might be a new background. This is the nice bright room in the house this time of day. So I am here. If you are wondering what that is my new treadmill. We got a treadmill a couple weeks ago to try to stay healthy and fit since we are in our homes for a little while. So I hope you like the decor. I call it fitness chic. Yes. So today's book, we are reading a popular children's author, Jan Brett. And Jan Brett, one of the things that she's best known for are her illustrations, her pictures. She is the author of the stories, but she's also the illustrator, which means that she writes the story and the words and also draws all of these beautiful pictures. So in this book, we have a lot of animals and they're all huddled around the Mitten is the title of our story, the Mitten. And one of the really cool things about Jan Brett's books that I really like from an instructional point is that on each page, there's a border around the pages. And in the border, especially on the right side, it's kind of like a foreshadowing of what's going to happen on the next page. So every page, given the little context clues in the imagery of the border, you can kind of make a little prediction about what's going to happen next, which is very fun for students because we like to make predictions. Let's get started. Oh, here we have a character. This might be our main character right here. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool that was as white as snow. I happen to see that there's a lot of snow in the background. White as snow. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one of your white mittens in the snow, she warned, you'll never be able to find it. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. Why does Baba think that if he drops his white mittens in the snow, he won't be able to find them? Why did she say that? I think so too, because if the snow is white and the mittens are white, they would kind of be camouflaged, which means that they would be the same color. And we wouldn't be able to see them if you dropped them. But she made them anyway. He convinced her. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound. But then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long before one of his new snow white mittens dropped in the snow. It fell in the snow. It's just what Baba said would happen. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten. Discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size. So he decided to stay. So a mole is a little rodent type little furry guy. And a little mole burrowed inside and decided to stay. Now, remember what I said about the illustrations. This is that beautiful border I was telling you about that goes around each page of Jan Brett's books. And on the right side, it usually foreshadows what's going to happen next or who's going to come into the story next. So what do you see on the border here? A snow bunny or a rabbit. So I predict that next we're going to meet a new animal character and it's going to be a rabbit. Let's find Just then, a snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten in the snow, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was enough room for both of them. But when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, his feet, he moved over and made space. So now they're both all cuddled up in that mitten. Why did they want to go in the mitten? It's made out of wool. Wool is one of the warmest materials you can have. So it's very warm and cozy in the cold winter. Now let's take a look at our border. What do we see coming up next? Who do we think might walk into our story next? What do you think that animal is? Let's find out. Next, a hedgehog came along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself up. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone who's covered in sharp prickles, they moved over and made room. Look at all three of them in there. So who's in there right now? We have the mole, who we can't even see. He's stuck all the way back there. We have the rabbit who came next, and then the hedgehog, prickly hedgehog. Now, let's look at our border picture, foreshadowing who is coming next. See a picture. Looks like someone might be coming next. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by all the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. They were grouchy. But when they saw the owl's glinty, sharp talons, they quickly decided to let him in. They don't really have a choice, right? If they said no, that hawk might poke him with his sharp talons. Now, if we were going to be guessing by our prediction, what do you see in the foreshadowing of the border? Ooh, who's that? Let's find out what's going to happen next. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left in the mitten, but when they saw his sharp claws, they gave him the thumb space in the mitten. So I think they're afraid if they don't share, that badger might get angry. Now, do you think anybody else can fit in this mitten? How on earth are they going to keep making space? But what do we have in our little border picture? Another animal's coming. What do you think? Oh my word! It started snowing, and the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Investigate means he wants to check out what is going on. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his big, sharp, shiny teeth, they decided to give the fox lots of room. Oh my goodness. What? Okay. A great big bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as can be. What animal would argue with a bear? So, I want to pause right here. And let's make a prediction. Do you think this bear is going to fit in this mitten? What do you think is going to happen next when I turn the page? How do you think the story is going to go from here? Are they going to fit? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to make a prediction. And you think, what is going to happen next? Pretend you're the author. You're Jan Brett's assistant. What is going to happen next? And I'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay, so what did you predict? What is going to happen when our bear friend comes over? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held together. Now let's look at the prediction. Oh. Picture that she draws on the border. What's going to happen next? What animal is that? Looks like a little field mouse. Along came a field mouse, a meadow mouse, no bigger than a tiny little acorn. She wriggled up into the one space that was left and made herself comfortable on top of the bear's nose. The bear was tickled by the mouse's whiskers and gave an enormous sneeze. The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered all the animals in all directions. Look at them all flying. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten, silhouetted against the blue sky. As he ran to catch his snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. The end. You know, this is the last picture on the last page. And what do you notice about those two mittens? What do you notice is different about those two mittens? This one, they're the same color. They're the white mittens. But what is different about them now? I agree. One of them is so big. Why is one bigger than the other? I think you know. So friends, your activity today to recall what happened in the story is I want you to make me a picture of two mittens or one mitten. And you're going to, one of the things we do is we trace our hand on a piece of paper. And it's not a glove. You don't need to trace every finger. Just trace your thumb. Put your thumb in the thumb hole, fingers all together. That's the song we sing in mitten weather. Trace your hand and make a mitten and decorate it how you would like to have a mitten look. Okay? And then send me a picture. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for reading with me today. Have a good one. Bye-bye.